Hi, and welcome back to Purple Collar Life. In today's video, we're doing something a little bit different. If you watch the channel, you know we're normally outside. We're normally on the tractor, running the log splitter, cutting firewood, doing chores in our rural western Pennsylvania location.
You're so strong.
It's harder to pull through the mud. Today I'm actually out of town, but today I want to talk to you about why I'm switching back to the green of cash. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about kind of some changes I'm making when it comes to spending money and how I use money. Now I'm at the age where I remember when I first started working about 30 years ago at the age of 15. I worked at a country club and they'd pay me with a paper check. I'd take that check to my bank, I'd cash the check, and then I'd use that cash to pay my bills. At the time, it was gasoline. So, you use the cash to pay for your gas, and then if you were an adult working, you'd use that cash to pay for groceries and anything else you used. Let's say you went to the shop, you'd probably use cash to pay. Let's say you bought some parts at the parts store, you'd use cash to pay. You went to the hardware store, you'd use cash to pay. We lived in very much a cash society when I was younger. And then after college, things changed a little bit. Plastic became popular as a means to pay for things, and I was an early adopter. When I first got my debit card, I started using the debit card to pay for things rather than cash. It was so much more convenient when you go to the gas station to just swipe that card rather than having to go in and pay with cash. I actually remember when I started driving, the gas station attendants would come out to your car. They'd have that huge wad of money. I thought they were the richest guys in the world, because they'd pull that huge wad of money out to give you your change when you paid. Usually with a $10 bill for the gas that I was putting in at the time, my Dodge Daytona, 1983 Dodge Daytona. But then as gas stations switched to being able to take credit cards or debit cards, that was much easier and more convenient, and they didn't have to pay people to come out at a full service station anymore and pump your gas. So I was an early adopter. I took the debit card, I used it to pay for things at the grocery store, I used it to pay for things at the department stores like Hills or Kmart or Jamesway. And then credit cards started giving you points for putting things on the credit card. So I used a credit card just like a debit card. I would put my charges on it for the month of my expenses, and then I'd pay that off at the end of each month. And I've done that now for many years, up until this year. And I still do it sometimes. So in this video, we'll talk about why I still use a credit card sometimes, but why for the most part, I'm switching back to cold, hard, green cash money. Now the reason I'm switching back to cash is because I'm seeing a change in how money works in the world. And I see the charges that credit cards are putting on small businesses. So I do a lot of shopping at meat markets. So I'll go in and get my steaks and chicken and pork chops, and a lot of those places have started putting a little sign up that says, sorry, we have to charge a 3% charge for using your credit card, because they were getting dinged that money, and then let's say you bought $20 worth of steak, they were having to pay part of that back to the credit card company. So I don't fault these small businesses at all. I want them to be successful, and I don't mind the fact that they're going to charge a little bit extra for people using a credit card. So that's one reason I'm switching back to cash. Now when I go into a place like that, I pay cash. The second reason I'm switching to cash is for the service industry. I got to thinking about when I first started working, I mentioned that was at a country club, and my tips got paid in cash. I made like $2.35 an hour was my hourly wage, but the majority of my money was paid to me in tips. So the tips being cash meant that I got to keep all of it. In today's world, when I put the tip on my credit card, let's say this is my credit card, I put the tip on it after a meal, that credit card company is getting a portion of that tip money rather than my server. Reason number 3 that I'm switching to cash. I've actually had a credit card get skimmed before at a gas station, and what happened then was they skimmed my card number. They took that card number to a Walmart, tried to buy a whole bunch of large screen TVs. Thankfully, the charge didn't go through. My credit card company stopped it, but that could have been a real problem. So I think that as criminals get smarter about how they're stealing your identity or stealing your credit card information, it's just a little bit safer to not use credit cards all the time. So about a year ago, if you would have seen inside my George Costanza style super thick wallet here, you would see very little cash. In fact, if we would go to Mackenzie's basketball games or volleyball match and get to the door, a lot of times I was worried that I didn't have enough cash to get in. Thankfully, between Jennifer and I, we always did have enough cash, but it was one of those things where I didn't really carry cash with me. I hardly ever used cash. The nice thing about using a credit card was that I only had to do the exact amount of money when I was paying for something. I didn't have to worry about change. So that made things a lot easier. You didn't have a lot of change in your pocket, sorting through, dimes, quarters, nickels, and pennies after you pay for something. But now, today, if you look at my wallet, it's a little bit fatter because I am carrying around with me a little bit more cash. Like I said earlier in the video, I am out of town. I actually went for a haircut yesterday out of town. And thankfully I had cash because they only took cash. So I'm finding that more and more businesses are switching back to being cash only. And I don't mind that. I totally understand why they're doing that. I want them to be successful. Like I said, I want to support the local businesses. So if that means using cash, I certainly don't mind. Now, I said earlier there are going to be some instances where I still use a credit card and where it makes sense to use a credit card. For example, if I'm ordering something on Amazon, I have an Amazon Prime credit card that gives me 5 points per dollar spent on Amazon. So obviously when you're ordering online, you're still going to need a credit card to pay for those things. I doubt they're going to let you mail them a check or send them cash through the mail to pay for anything you're buying. And there is the benefit of getting those points for spending the money through Amazon, or let's say you're in a hotel. Maybe it makes sense to use your Hilton card rather than giving out, hundreds of dollars of cash for several nights stay. Now, gas stations are the most tricky one for me. I love the convenience of pulling up, getting out, swiping my card, pumping my gas, and driving away. Sometimes when the receipt thing doesn't work on the gas pump, I have to go inside. And it's a super inconvenience because at Sheetz or Quick Fill or our local gas stations, there's almost always a line inside. People buying coffee, lottery tickets, cigarettes, any of the convenience items that they sell inside those gas station stores. So it's super inconvenient to have to go in and wait in that line for a receipt. I can only imagine it would be that same inconvenience to go inside and say, hey, I was on pump number 7, here's my $80 for the gas I just pumped. It's so much easier to pay at the pump. But paying at the pump was where my credit card got skimmed and the people took that information. Now, I'm always trying to be aware of my surroundings. I pay attention to things that are going on around me, and I always look at the gas pump to make sure that there's not a skimming device on it. I didn't see one on that gas pump at the time that I remember, and I always try to make sure I'm checking those types of things, but somehow they did skim my card at that gas station. So there you go. My biggest hang up is the gas station, but we're going to see how that goes. Hopefully my card will never get skimmed again, but I'd like to still keep using my credit card at the gas station. I spend a lot of money on gas. I travel a lot. So it's really nice to get points and perks for spending that much money on gasoline. The other thing I worry about with cash is I hate carrying a wad of cash around with me in my wallet. A, it makes my wallet even more fat, but B, it just makes it more of a risk. When you open up your wallet, if someone nearby you happens to see that you've got, multiple 20s or something in your wallet, it just makes you a little bit more of a target when you're traveling in areas that maybe aren't as safe as other areas. So that's my one concern. I do like to hide some money, in my laptop bag or in my truck, so that I'm not keeping all my cash on me. I kind of have emergency stashes of cash if I would need them, but I am making the switch back to having more cash on me. Now, I've always paid cash for some items. So think about like when I bought my Ford tractor last year, I paid cash. When you buy something from someone on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, it's pretty common that you're going to have to pay cash, whether that's an implement for your tractor or tires and wheels off of someone, that they took off of a new truck that you want to put on your truck. A lot of times cash is king when it comes to those type of things. There are also advantages to paying cash for other things. When Mackenzie got her braces, Jennifer paid entirely with cash. And there was a benefit to doing that. It cost us a little bit less money because he didn't have to pay that fee of the credit card fee. I can think of 2 or 3 of our favorite restaurants that are still cash only, and we always plan ahead before we go to those restaurants. We're looking at each other and saying, do we have cash to go tonight to the restaurant? And sometimes we'd have to go to what we call the Mac machine. They're now called an ATM, but I remember when they were called the Mac machine, and we'd go there and get some cash out to go to our favorite restaurants. Another really nice advantage to paying with cash that I forgot about is the change. Like I said earlier, the change is kind of a pain because you're dealing with multiple ones and a whole bunch of coins, but I remember always putting those coins into a bank or a tin or some type of container at home, and then you've kind of got that money that's accumulating as a savings for a special event. So, I know people put them in sometimes those big 5-gallon water cooler jugs, and then at the end of that, just imagine how much money that is that's in that container that you can use for something special. So there is kind of that reminiscence of what that change can be used for in the future and the potential fun of, a vacation fund or a little bit of a special treat from saving all that change. Now, which way do I spend more money? Well, I would have thought that I spent more money as a card because it was so easy. But the disadvantage to the cash system is I put that change into my bin of coins and money, and it's surprising compared to paying exact amount with a credit card how much more money you spend. It's also surprising once you break a bigger bill, so I don't carry $100 bills around with me, I carry $20 bills and I consider them a bigger bill, but once you break a 20, it goes pretty fast. So there you go, just a little brief discussion on why I am not going to be using the plastic as much and I am switching back to being a cash consumer. I'd love if you'd leave your thoughts down below. Have you stayed a cash person primarily the entire time? Were you like me and you adopted using credit cards and debit cards and then paying those off each month? Thankfully, I never got into a credit card problem. I always paid my credit card off immediately. I know a lot of people that put a lot of charges on a credit card, then it takes a long time to pay those off. I always advise stay away from that type of thing. You can get yourself into a pretty deep hole if you use the credit card for things that you're not going to be able to pay off at the end of the month. So again, leave those comments down below. I'd like to hear what you think about switching back to cash or sticking with the points and the benefit systems of using plastic. And if you found this video informative or entertaining, we'd really appreciate if you give us a thumbs up. Like I said, this is a little bit different than our normal video, but it was a topic that I thought was timely and certainly something that I've been thinking about doing for a little while. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again the next time, where we'll probably be outside with a tractor or the truck or some piece of equipment doing some work and having some fun. We'll see you again the next time.